this session is going to be more a case study. So what we're going to do is we're going to hear from Topo Powell, who is a vice president at Fidelity Investments of enterprise architecture, and at Fidelity they've been doing a little case study on this individual or a group who are using Copilot. And one of the things that we're going to learn here is what worked well, what are the limitations, and so forth. But case studies are always good in these conferences, so it gives me great pleasure to introduce Topo on stage. So please give it up for Topo.
Thank you. All right. So I'll be talking about a particular use case that I was part of at Fidelity Investments. And then we're going to talk about what that use case was, what was done, what was good, what was bad, what was the learning from there. But before that, I will kind of first introduce myself formally and talk about Fidelity a little bit, and then show you certain disclaimers, and then go from there. All right, there are a few disclaimers here. It's a case study of Fidelity Investments experience. I am not endorsing any vendor or any particular technology here. We're just presenting the use case. And most of the things that I say here, or maybe all, are my opinions and my experience, and not necessarily Fidelity Investments or any of its affiliates. So that's a set of disclaimers. About Fidelity, I'm sure you all know about Fidelity Investments, one of the largest financial institutes in the world. Headquartered in Boston, about 77,000 associates in all over the US, and many global sites. There are 14 of them in 11 countries. Total assets under administration is $16.7 trillion, and total discretionary assets are $6.4 trillion. So it's huge. And then 4.3 million daily average trades by customers across the world. So that's kind of the scale that I'm talking about. And of course, in big enterprises, especially in enterprises that are regulated, things work in a different way than normal startup or mid-sized companies that are not so regulated would. So that's about Fidelity Investments, and the reason I like Fidelity Investments is because of these. It's leading in technology, there is vitality in people's career, and the most thing that I like about is very open to diversity and inclusion. And so I love being there, being as a developer, being as an architect, being as an engineer in general. So let's talk about me currently, as I was introduced. Vice President, Fidelity Architecture and Engineering Group. There are two things that I'm accountable for. One is software delivery, domain architecture, strategy, roadmap, platform functioning. And then I also have open source program office. Previously, I was with Capital One for 10 years, Home Depot for a little while. Quadrant got acquired by Nuance, and now Microsoft. I was with Circuit City for some long time. And then before that, I was in academia. I did my PhD in semiconductor physics, but that was a completely different story, how I landed in software industry. A few years ago, I was fortunate enough to co-author this book called Investments Unlimited. This is about automated governance with DevOps in large enterprises and financial institute. And IT Revolution gave us the opportunity to publish this under their umbrella. So that's about me. In Fidelity, we have this hypothesis that GenAI coding assistants can accelerate development, streamline code reviews, you just heard about that from Microsoft, enhance test coverage, and support faster delivery cycles. So in my talk, I'm going to kind of sort of prove the hypothesis, but before that, I want to set the context. My background is hands-on keyboard developer. That's what I did for most of my life, even today. I have been with many software engineering groups for a long time. I can code very well in Java. I can code in Python. I can hack around with a few other languages, but Java is my strong point. I have been as team lead I have been in support groups, support lead. I logged into production. I broke production many a times. It was because of me that something bad happened, and every time that happened, I got promoted, and that's how I'm here. And now I cannot code that much that I would like to, and that's because I actually can, use my experience in driving or leading teams or instructing people to do the right thing right away. So that is kind of my background. Now, my use case, as you have seen in my current role, I run open source program office. One of my teams run open source program office for Fidelity Enterprise. One thing that I care about in terms of open source governance is software bill of material. And I don't know how many of you know Josh Corman. He has been in the forefront of software bill of material and the necessity of it. He introduced me to software bill of material, and henceforth I'm going to talk about SBOM, that's software bill of material. He introduced me to SBOM in around 2015, and it was kind of the eye-opening experience for me what he was thinking about or talking about. And during the last or a few years ago in 2021, December, when Log4Shell came about, we all felt the need of having an SBOM in every company. Many companies had that in some form or fashion, but not all. So this became one of my target in my mind, to have a software bill of material to visualize and analyze every use of open source software in the company, in all the applications, in all the repositories where they're running in runtime environment, the complete picture of it. My point is that, yes, we talk about SBOM in the context of security, but in my mind, that is not only about security, it's about your software health. It's just like you buy a food package, and in the back of the package, everything is written down to the details that you would like to know. I want to know that kind of detail for every software that I build or I use or run in my environment. So it is not about just security. My goal is to achieve this. If you are building software, you need to know your components. That's kind of the basic goal. So that's my use case, software bill of material use case. Now, over the last 2.5 years, I have a team that produced a complete dependency graph and metadata of internal built applications. It's essentially capturing dependency data from repositories, artifact, runtime environment, and putting all these things in a graph so that I can talk about a particular library that I am interested in and identify within seconds which repository it is used in, which artifact it is embedded in, which Docker image it is packaged in, and where it is running. That's kind of the overall goal. Think about Log4Shell situation again. Can I respond to a Log4Shell situation in the future within seconds? At least understanding what the impact is. Now, this team is an amazing team of backend developers. They're very good at Python and batch kind of processing. Is essentially an ETL job if you think about it, collecting data from multiple sources and putting it into the graph. Now, what happened was, as they were building it, people across the enterprise were finding more use of that data. So this team was kind of getting bogged down into supplying report for all the people that are asking for more data. Hey, who uses this particular library that we license and how many applications are using it? Who uses this software that is 10 years old and we want to get rid of it? Who do we need to contact? So that kind of reporting. So what he thought is, we'll produce a dashboard that can have all these features built in so that the users can self-serve. So that is the use case. So we started with so this is a high-level architecture I just talked about, from repository to artifact to container images to runtime. We gather data and put it in a graph, and they are all connected via different relationships. And then we started using NeoDash, which comes with Neo4j, open source, out of the box. It basically connects to the graph database, and it has drag and drop almost capabilities to visualize your graph and query and all that. It's an open source thing. What we found was that it is good, it is free, it's ready to go, ready to connect to Neo4j and do the job. But I'll show you some of the screenshots and you'll understand why it is not such a good dashboard from user experience perspective. It actually directly connects to the Neo4j database. Some of these response that comes up with, such as if you look at this particular screen, here you can enter an application number. Every big enterprise has an ID for an application. So you put that number and immediately it tells you some details, metadata about that applications, how many libraries are used in that application, how many repositories are in that particular application, their health in terms of their software vulnerability and risk and all that, and some details. Now, this is all redacted out for good reason. I don't want you to know all the details that are behind. So all the XY coordinates and some numbers have been redacted on purpose, but they have some numbers shown on the Neodash screen. This is another view. You can actually put in a library name and it will tell you how many or which repositories are using that particular library with many more metadata. Again, some things have been redacted out, but overall, we felt that this experience is not good enough. It cannot be scaled across the enterprise because people will not love to use that, and when people do not love to use that, they will come back to the team asking for more reports. So we thought that we need to somehow do something about it. And then, as I said, my background was in Java as a major programming languages. And of course, I have worked with many RDBMS, but Neo4j, I have nothing. I don't know anything about Neo4j. And the querying language, Cypher query, I have no idea. So I thought that maybe it's time for me to learn Cypher query and so that I can experience some of the things that are going on and find a solution purely from an architect perspective. So this is what I have today, as I said, and in my mind, I needed this extra two things, a set of APIs and a nice usable dashboard. The API, of course, for the dashboard, but also the API, some of the APIs can be exposed to the broad mass so that they can consume that. My first experiments were with this. With Copilot, I asked, can I get schema of my Neo4j data? And Copilot says, yes, you run this command. And I took that command and put it on Neo4j browser, which is essentially a SQL developer, if you will. And I got the schema. And then I said, okay, given that schema, can you help me with some Cypher queries? I have some use cases. So Copilot said, okay, give me the schema and I'll give you the Cypher query for your queries. So I put the schema in and I asked, based on this schema, can you tell me this particular library is used in how many repositories? So Copilot gave me the query and I pasted it into the quote-unquote SQL developer. I got my data. I'm like, this is quite a fun. And I started making complex use cases and it actually produced all the right queries that I can just took from there and pasted on the browser. So I started thinking about it. And when actually I was pasting the queries in the Neo4j browser, I made sure of two things. One, I'm not in the production environment. I didn't want to screw up any more databases in my life. Number two, the queries did not have delete, drop, or detach, those dangerous commands. So beyond that, I was safe to run those in non-production environment and then produce the things that I was looking for. So then I started experimenting more. I started talking about, hey, Copilot, can you actually write a single-page application showing these data points? And Copilot did it in 1 hour, and I was very surprised. And when I was getting the success out of it, then I said, okay, let me just pause here and let me be a little more, bring in some discipline into it. So this was my second experiment. I actually closed the laptop and wrote down everything that I needed from this particular to-be set of APIs and dashboard. These are the things that I need. And then I typed that into Copilot. I opened my laptop, typed that in, and I put in those requirements as well as some very key non-functional requirements that are very, very enterprise specific. My goal is not to produce something that I cannot run in an enterprise infrastructure. My goal is to produce something and send it to production in an enterprise firm, in a financial institute that is totally regulated. So I fed those three things in, and I asked Copilot, read all these, apply all the knowledge that you have about SBOM across the whole internet, all the data set that you have been trained on, and write me a detailed implementation plan, detailed task list. It took about 45 minutes to produce that, and I looked at that, and I reviewed all that in about 1.5 a day. And then I asked Copilot, what would it take for a normal agile team, let's say 5-6 developers and a scrum master and that group, to implement this? Copilot thought for a few minutes and gave me an estimate of 12 to 18 months. And I said, that's not going to happen. Nobody's going to build a dashboard and set of API for nothing. So let me try. So next 5 days, I actually sat with Copilot 5 days. I mean continuous 5 days, that includes nights. I sat with Copilot and went through each and every task list using many different models, and failing on the way and recovering from the failure because I was learning the whole process. So at the end of the 5 days, I had this: a React front-end, Node TypeScript backend APIs, code for SSO integration, as I talked about, enterprise form. SSO is by default, needs to be on. Feature toggles, enterprise standard logging, end-to-end request tracing, correlation, performance monitoring hooks, unit and end-to-end test suite, more than 80% code coverage, zero linting and code quality issues, a Docker file, a CI pipeline, a partial deployment pipeline, and architecture diagram all in markdown format. So this is the end result of this 5 days of vibe coding. And of course, there are few functional bugs. Now let me show you what I got. This is the new dashboard. Again, things are redacted out. There are few screenshots, and if you catch me after my talk, I can show you the real live application. So essentially, at a very high level, it shows you enterprise viewpoint, your top technology stacks, your vulnerability chains, your license risk distribution. And in the license risk distribution, it can identify all the different licenses, the risk profile, the distribution around all the libraries, and nice charts, and nice colors, and nice font, and nice modern dashboard. Bill of material registry, which is this particular product that we are talking about. If we enter that particular application, it lists all the dependencies that that particular application has, and with their vulnerabilities, their other dependencies, their transitive dependencies, their license information, recommended action. And again, this is just presentation and API. The data is already there. So another thing, let's say Log4j happened, I can have this library search, which says, I type in Log4j, it shows up matches. And then I can also find, let's say, hey, in the search result match, I had commons collection. I can select one and show usage. The usage will show all the repositories and artifacts that this particular library is being used in. And I also so that's the usage report. Now, I also have another interesting thing, the graph itself. Copilot helped me actually build this graph on the fly. Given an application, it can actually show me all the repositories that are blue. The red hexagonal thing is actually the application. So essentially what we are seeing here is that that particular application has 6 repositories that are the blue, and for each repository, it has all the direct and indirect dependencies in a graph form. And you can actually drag and drop, so actually you can separate them out, and you can hover over them to see their immediate edges or immediate dependencies. And you can actually also see the transitive dependencies. Now, at this point, I wanted to know how large is this project, because I had no idea. I didn't code a single line, right? So I didn't know what is there. I just saw some API code and some UI. So I counted, I asked Copilot to count it. This is the size of the project. 36,000, about 37,000 lines of Node.js backend, and 30,000 lines of React TypeScript and 270 source code file. Yesterday, I did another count, and I saw that API server code base has grown 5%. The front-end code base has grown 45%. So what I'm saying is that this is the baseline after 5 days of Vive coding, and that's the kind of the size of the project that Copilot came up with in 5 days. Now, I was also interested to know, okay, how good is this project? It's beyond the number of lines of code. So I asked Copilot just another model. Hey, look at this particular repository and tell me how good is this project. So this is exactly cut, copy, pasted from my Copilot to my slide. It says, this particular project needs senior plus developer skill with full stack expertise, with enterprise software experience, security domain knowledge. And the bottom line is, this is the kind of project that gets you interviews at FANG companies and demonstrate that you can architect and build production-grade enterprise software. Definitely brag about it. So here I am bragging about it, and I have not written a single line of code. Now, you might ask that how confident I am that without writing a single line of code, I am ready to ship this code to the production. And my point is that I did not know when I started, but after 5 days, I actually know Cypher queries because Copilot taught me. I actually can read TypeScript. I actually know the structure. I actually can now code in TypeScript. Because that's what happened in these 5 days, that with the Vive coding going on, it actually taught me the things that I did not know. This is just amazing, right? Now, my learning as a developer, you all know this stuff. Do not 100% trust your AI coding agent. They will lie to you. Use all the scanners, slinters, and all that. I'm going to quickly skip to the slide, which is more important for me as an architecture lead. What are the things that I worry about? What I worry about is this amazing speed that the Gen AI coding agents are going to produce will actually collapse or create back pressure on our rest of the software delivery process. Think about agile. Agile created a back pressure in our dev and ops process. That's why we have DevOps. This is many magnitudes more. Think about getting one feature done in one sprint to 10 features done in 1 day. Think about the process that needs to be tuned up to handle this pressure. How to do that, I don't know. I'm still learning. So that's why I'm showing up in all these conferences so that I can talk to you and learn about this. But the change is here. We have to embrace the change. It's not about can we use AI, Gen AI coding agent. It's about how can we use Gen AI coding agent is the question. This is one cautionary thing from my side. Vive coding is very addictive. You can talk to my family. They'll tell you about it. So I'm not going to lie. Help I'm looking for these. If you have any answers to these, please come and talk to me. Love to chat. I have 2 minutes and 20 seconds. I'm ready for questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions in the room? One straight away.
How long did it take you after that to register in the internal system ID and run this in production?
So this thing is in production for the last 2 months, and it is being totally managed by a team of developers that have no idea, just like me, how the TypeScript works or how the TypeScript API works or the UI. They now know, and they are maintaining the product. As I said, 40% code growth over the last 1 month, all by Copilot.
Hi, thank you for the talk here.
Yeah.
What can you say about the reliance on AI systems to build solutions that you ultimately try to push to prod?
So this is in production, but I understand your question. Let me ask myself this question. Am I ready to use Gen AI coding agents to write software that handles money? Not yet. Am I ready to actually offload some of these tasks that big enterprises have, even small to medium, these no-risk applications like SBOM dashboard, right? These are internal tools. Am I ready to offload those tasks to AI Copilot 100%?
What does the clock say? 30 seconds or so? On the clock?
51 seconds.
51 seconds.
Right.
49, 40.
Okay. So SBOMs and vibe. So do you foresee, like, in your SBOM to say, like, a vibe level, like an attribution of confidence that the developer understands the component they've written?
We are looking at it because one of the things as an open source program office owner I have in my mind is that it's not only me writing vibe coding and developing software, it's the rest of the open source world. And who is keeping track of all the security vulnerability, intentional and unintentional things. So what am I consuming that I cannot now track as fast as they are being produced? So that is one of the risks that we are thinking about, how to capture those kind of things. I saw some of the tools here that can probably help, and some of them are good open source, so it's all good from now onwards.
What a sentiment to finish on. Thank you very much. Give it up, Topo.
Thank you.